Parliament here present, the Directorate, and members of City Alliance, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I take this time to first thank the City Alliance for the opportunity to participate in this very thought-provoking dialogue on urbanism. As we embark on the next 3 days of dialogue, the fundamental question we're asking ourselves is how do we create the urban Africa we want? We've agreed that we will begin by changing the narrative. I will share with you how in Liberia we are changing this narrative. We are striving to determine the Liberia we want, and I share insights from a twofold perspective. First, as an urban planner with the Monrovia City Corporation, which is the municipal governing agency for Liberia's capital city. My mayor, the Honorable Clara Doe Mfogo, is with us today. I also share the perspective from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in Liberia, where we are transforming the commerce story and highlighting the importance of economic diversification for sustainable development. In Liberia, we must change our narrative in the face of formidable challenges: post-conflict, post-Ebola, infrastructure deficits, human capacity development challenges, rapid unplanned urbanization. The list goes on and on. But to quote our esteemed member of the Cities Alliance Policy Advisory Board and Secretary General of the United Cities and Local Governments of Africa, a new narrative is needed for African cities that is not romantic but realistic. This dialogue on urbanism begins with people. It begins with a realistic portrait of what it means to urbanize within the context of our uniquely African perspectives. In Liberia, a paradigm shift is needed to highlight the positives of urbanization and build upon our advantages and the opportunities that a renewed focus can and will bring to our individual nations, but the continent of Africa as a whole. 2.2 million of Liberia's 4.5 million inhabitants lives in urban areas across the country, and 40%, that's 1.5 million, reside in the capital city, Monrovia. Monrovia's extremely rapid growth from 350,000 to over 1 million in less than 14 years was primarily caused by the internal displacement as a result of our 14-year conflict. But this severely stressed the city's already limited infrastructure, placed acute pressure on delivery of social services, housing, and governance. Our population is growing at 7%, which means that it will double in roughly 10 years. Simply put, we must rethink our urban growth pattern. Globally, the world's 600 largest municipalities account for more than 60% of the global GDP. For Liberia, Monrovia has opportunities and challenges. It generates 2/3 of the national GDP and has a vibrant business district, bustling entrepreneurs, and political leaders that are strongly committed to a successful future for the city. However, this high rate of primacy has its drawbacks. Most of our secondary cities and small towns are rural settlements. They lack basic services, infrastructure development, and social amenities. Additionally, very little attention is paid to development within the 15 county capitals outside of Monrovia, despite population increases in all of these cities, with the exception of one. There is limited and, in some cases, non-existent infrastructure development. This has hampered the diversification of economic development outside of Monrovia. County capitals and other secondary cities are bustling centers of economic activity, but lack the investment opportunities that will accelerate their growth. These 15 undeveloped cities present formidable opportunities for the transformative change that we seek. 2014 to 2015 saw the crippling of our $2 billion economy with a health crisis that brought our economies to its knees and dropped our GDP to less than 1%. In 2014, while struggling with how to tackle the steady drop in two of our major export commodity prices, that's rubber and iron ore, we had to redirect our focus as a nation from focusing on interventions to address falling commodity prices to mobilizing resources to address a raging health crisis. Today, we are Ebola-free and we have learned many valuable lessons. First, we've learned that an economy driven by two primary commodities is at the mercy of internal and external shocks that can cripple it. Second, it has taught us that economy driven by consumption rather than production remains vulnerable to internal and external variables it cannot control. It also forces us to rethink our transformative approach, which includes the definition of urbanization. As we've learned that two commodities cannot propel an economy into perpetuity, one city cannot sustain a national urban platform. As we undergo structural and spatial transformation, we bear that in mind. Today in Liberia, we have reinvented ourselves as a pro-business environment through good economic management, fiscal discipline, and legislative reform to help enable our private sector to grow. We are cognizant of the role that our government will play in strengthening the policy environment, and we understand that one strong city cannot sustain urbanization, cannot promote holistic economic development, and cannot alleviate poverty or change the lives of the 65% of the population who are our youth, men and women between the ages of 18 and 35. Our Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, tells us to learn the lessons from our past, build on the progress now underway, and use the opportunities offered by urbanization and demographic shift to ensure positive socio-economic transformation.
Time.
As a nation, learning the tough lessons.
One more minute.
1 minute.
Thank
In
you.
the past, we are focused more than ever on developing and diversifying our economic industries to tackle poverty, unemployment, promote equity, and spur sustainable economic growth. In order to reach our stated goal as a country of becoming a middle-income country by 2030, we must ensure that our economy and our urban centers diversify. We will promote urban employment generation, improve urban food, water, energy security, and strengthen our urban and rural linkages. As we diversify, I want you to please join me in imagining a Liberia with thriving urban centers along our major growth corridors, where rural Liberians, especially our youth, are employed and begin to imagine a future where poverty is alleviated in the spirit of inclusiveness, mutual respect, productive and sustainable partnerships. We build a better Liberia. It is my hope that over the next 3 days, we will pragmatically dialogue on these issues and others that define the urban framework and work towards our African story. God bless you and thank you.